This lecture is going to be discussed about UPSC Science and Technology PYQ analysis from 2013 to 2025, and also with that most probable themes for prelims 2026 also we are going to discuss in this master class. So let we start. Over the last decade, UPSC has asked dozens of science and technology questions in the prelims examination. But if you analyze those questions carefully, something surprising appears. Most of them actually come from a small number of technological ecosystems. And once you recognize those ecosystems, the science and technology section become far more predictable than most aspirants realize. Before we begin, let us do something slightly different. Instead of treating UPSC preparation as a collection of topics, let us try to understand the structure behind the examination. Because once you understand the structure of the paper, preparation becomes far more focused and far more efficient. Let me start with a question. If you look at the last 10 years of UPSC prelims papers, science and technology questions may appear unpredictable. But what if I told you that most of those questions actually come from a few repeating technological ecosystems? So, once you recognize those ecosystems, the subject becomes far more controllable than most aspirants realize. Today, we are going to do something slightly different. Instead of looking at science and technology as a collection of random topics, we are going to analyze the actual UPSC questions asked over the last decade. We will examine science and technology previous year questions from 2013 to 2025. So, with this, identify the patterns behind those questions and then discuss the most probable technological themes for prelims 2026 for the upcoming examination. Once you see the pattern clearly, the subject becomes far less intimidating and far more easier than you think actually. Let me begin with a small observation about science and technology. The UPSC prelims examination. What is the small observation? Many aspirants feel that science and technology is one of the most unpredictable section of the paper. Some years the paper contains several questions. Some years there are only a few. Some years 3, 4 questions like that. Some years 11, 13 like that. Because of this uncertainty, students usually take one of two extreme approaches. What are the approaches? Some aspirants try to read everything related to science and technology. Others almost ignore the subject completely. But if we carefully analyze UPSC prelims papers from 2013 to 2025, something very clear becomes visible. What? That is, science and technology questions UPSC are not random. UPSC repeatedly tests a few technological ecosystems that are shaping the modern world. And once we recognize these ecosystems, the subject becomes much more controllable and predictable. So, what is the real nature of science and technology in UPSC? We have to dig, we have to dig it, we have to examine it. Earlier, science and technology questions in UPSC was relatively simple. They were mostly factual. There, they were basic science. For example, which satellite was launched by ISRO, which element is used in nuclear reactors, like that. But modern science and technology questions look very different. UPSC is no longer asking about isolated inventions. As far as UPSC CSE GS paper science and technology is concerned, instead, it asks about technologies that influence governance, energy systems, healthcare, environment, and digital infrastructure, and day to day administration in governance also. In other words, science and technology in UPSC has become interdisciplinary. What is the meaning of interdisciplinary? UPSC is not testing whether you are a scientist or not. It is testing whether you understand how technology interacts with governance, policy, and real world systems. That is what UPSC is asking about. That is what UPSC is thinking about from the students. So, let we discuss about evolution of science and technology questions from 2013 to 2025. If we analyze the papers over the last decade, we can see four clear phases. We classified them into as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Let me go into the phase 1, that is from 2013 to 2014. Questions were based on basic scientific concepts from 2013 and 2014. Those are like genetic engineering, pollutants in water, solar cell technology. These type of questions were relatively straightforward. They were asked in 2013 and 2014. Then we are moving to phase 2, that is 2015 to 2016. Technology systems started appearing in the paper, like examples: Li-Fi communication, near field communication, transcriptome in biotechnology, fusion energy, etc. This phase introduced modern technological vocabulary into the prelims examination. Emerging technologies are discussed in this phase. Then we are moving to phase 3, that is 2017 to 2021. Science became increasingly integrated with governance and sustainability. So that is why questions were framing differently. So those are examples including like electronics recycling standards, remote sensing applications, innovation ecosystems. So technology was now appearing inside policy and environmental contexts. That is what UPSC is asking from. So we are moving to phase 4, that is 2020 to 2025. In recent years, UPSC has increasingly focused on emerging technologies. This is most important phase. This is present phase. This is current phase. We are focusing and we have to focus deeply on few technologies like electric vehicle batteries, drone technology, navigation systems, and biotechnology applications. On majorly renewable energy. So, science and technology have now become one of the most dynamic areas of the paper. Let's say few examples from the previously 4 phases. The questions, previous year's questions, what they are asked in in the examination, we will discuss in brief. So let's we take 2013 paper. One question asked, that is that is on biotechnology. That is question is asked on ecosystem, biotechnology and environment. The concept is plant fungus symbiosis. This is the application part, application of biological processes. UPSC focused these type of questions in the 2013 itself. So this is the question. We have to understand the pattern of the question, concept of the question, what is the insight we have to understand. Let's be moving to 2015 paper. Let me read the verbatim. In UPSC Prelims 2015, near field communication. Near field communication technology is used for which of the following? Contactless payments, data exchange between devices, smart card transactions. Those are options. Answer C, that is 1 to 3. Near field communication technology used for contactless payments, data exchange between devices, smart card transactions. All. So what is the insight? Ecosystem. What is the ecosystem in this? Digital technologies is the ecosystem of the question, particular question. What is the concept? Short range wireless communications. What is the trap? Actually, UPSC applied here is technology application confusion. So you have to understand the ecosystem of the question, and then you have to understand and identify the concept of the question. After that, you have to identify and thinking about what trap UPSC is set for you. That's the most important thing. Then only you can apply your skills and eliminate the options, and you go with the correct action. 2016 question. What is the question? Recently, Li-Fi technology has been in the news. Which of the following statements regarding Li-Fi is correct? The answer is A. That is, it uses light for data transmission. So what is the ecosystem in this? Digital communication technologies. What is the concept? Visible light communication. What is the UPSC pattern? Principle of technology. So you have to understand whole the thing, whole the concept and ecosystem of the pattern. Then only you can easily solve the question. Then 2019 question. What is the question? Question on remote sensing. Which of the following can be determined using satellite remote sensing? Surface temperature, vegetation cover, ocean currents. Answer is D. All three options: surface temperature, vegetation covers, ocean currents. This is belongs to space technology, satellites, concept satellite observation systems. What is the UPSC pattern? Application based science question is asked here. So you have to analyze the question with all the back end information, like what is the technology, what is the concept UPSC is asking in this question, particular question, and what the UPSC pattern. You have to understand and analyze all these things. Then only you can analyze and easily solve the particular question in the actual examination. Decision making under particular time pressure. 2021 question. Question on hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen fuel is considered a future energy source because this is the answer. Answer is what? One only. It produces water as a byproduct. So, what is the ecosystem? Energy transition. What is the concept? Hydrogen economy. UPSC pattern energy technology. So, currently, renewable energy is replacing the non-renewable energy like oil, particularly in transport sector like cars, electric vehicles, etc., etc. So you have to understand and identify the increasing pattern of the questions with the technology. So 2023 question, strategic minerals. Which of the following minerals are critical for electric vehicle batteries? Ecosystem, advanced materials. Right answer is D, 1, 2, 3. Lithium, cobalt, nickel are, these three are important for strategic minerals for making electric vehicle batteries. Ecosystem, advanced materials. What is the concept? Battery chemistry. UPSC trend is technological granularity because this is most important for electric vehicle batteries as well as chips, semiconductor industry. So this is the mission, particularly India have taken up semiconductor mission. So you have to focus like this. So this is the new type of questions. Statement 1 and statement 2 type of questions have appeared in 2024. That is statement 1. Question regarding polarization Earth's rotation. Statement 1. What is statement 1? Melting of polar ice caps causes a change in the Earth's rotation. Statement 2. When polar ice melts, the redistribution of mass on Earth alters the planet's movement of inertia. So, in this, which one is correct? Both statement 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 explain the statement 1. Polar ice and Earth's rotation. Melting of polar ice caps causes of a change in the Earth's rotation. Please focus on this concept. And when polar ice melts, the redistribution of mass on Earth alters the planet's movement of inertia. So this is statement 2 is explaining the statement 1. So that is why the correct answer is A. So you have to understand the concept and what are the features and explanation, reasoning. So that is why these questions are time taking. So you have to practice more number of questions like this because UPSC when come with these questions, many number of questions, the time will kill like anything. 2025. Which of the following elements are commonly used in lithium ion battery cathodes? Again asked on materials, lithium, nickel, cobalt. 2023 and 2025. More or less same question asked regarding battery chemistry. You have to you have to analyze and focus the main things UPSC particularly repeating again and again. Ecosystem energy technologies, concept battery materials. What is the UPSC trend micro level technology questions? So you have to understand and you have to identify and analyze, keep repeating and revision of these concepts like lithium ion battery, energy technologies, etc. etc. So this is the questions UPSC asked. So moving ahead, science and technology have now become one of the most dynamic areas of the paper. So we have to analyze the pattern. When we analyze the last decade of science and technology questions carefully, something interesting appears. Most questions are not isolated. They actually belong to a few recurring question families. In fact, if we organize the PYQs properly, almost every science and technology question falls into the seven major families. What are they? Understanding these families is far more useful than memorizing hundreds of technology. So, what are the families? One is biotechnology and health. Second one, digital and computing technologies. And third one is space technologies. And fourth one is energy technologies. And fifth one, environmental technologies. And sixth one is defense and strategic technologies. And last but not least, seventh one, that is advanced materials like nickel, cobalt, lithium ion, etc. etc. So these are the seven types of technologies like question families. So understanding these families is far more useful than memorizing random technologies. So we will move to family number one, that is biotechnology and health. What are the examples from PYQs included in this biotechnology phase or family is transcriptome, monoclonal antibodies, vaccines, and viruses. These types of questions come under biotechnology part, like CRISPR technology, monoclonal antibodies, viruses, mRNA viruses, making of antivirus vaccines. So these types of questions UPSC repeatedly asks biotechnology questions because they are directly connected with public health and agriculture. So that is why these type of questions from family one, that is biotechnology, is useful for public health and agriculture also. So we are moving to family two, that is digital and computing technologies. What are the technologies? Those are near field communication, artificial intelligence, and semiconductor technology. These technologies is growing like anything. These technologies, these technologies are central to the modern digital economy. So that is why these types of families, number two, that is digital technology, is heart and soul of the modern digital economy. So that is why again and again UPSC ask questions on this. This year also, 2026 also, maybe the questions from artificial intelligence or semiconductors, like direct or indirect, they will surely ask the questions. And next we are moving to family number three, that is space technology. What is space technology? Space technology includes satellite navigation systems, remote sensing satellites, navigation, augmentation systems. These systems are using for daily information observations regarding agriculture, day-to-day systems, governance, etc. So that is why these types of satellite systems are useful for humankind. That is why UPSC actually usually tests what these systems do rather than rocket engineering details. So you have to focus and you have to analyze the features, not only features but also functions of the space technology. So we are moving to family number 4, that is energy technologies. With the energy technologies is concerned, renewable energy is changing like anything, replacing non-renewable energy. Those are electric vehicle batteries, that is called EV batteries, hydrogen fuel cells, fusion energy, net metering. This is most useful for climate change, replacing non-renewable energy with renewable energy. That is why this energy technology concept is most favorite concept for UPSC CSE. That is why you have to up to date regarding these technologies, and most probably most importantly functions, how it will use for ecosystem, how it will use for humankind. These type of thinking you have to improve for day to day of preparation. These technologies are closely linked to the global energy transition from non-renewable to renewable energy. This is most important concept. Questions are asking, repeatedly asking on this concept. Direct or indirect, like EV battery systems, like advanced lithium ion battery, like nickel, cobalt, etc. etc. So you have to, this will be trans, extensively useful to climate mitigation, to reduce global warming. That is why this concept, this technologies is most important for science and technology as well as environment also. So this type of interdisciplinary questions or topics is most favorite for UPSC. They are particularly repeatedly again and again asked these type of interdisciplinary questions. They are focusing on interdisciplinary topics to test UPSC, to test students. So that is why you have to focus on these technologies. So moving moving to family number 5, that is environmental technologies. What is the environmental technologies are included, like activated carbon filtration system, desalination system, pollution control technologies. These are most important technologies to reduce the global greenhouse gases and reduces the increase the pollution of the reduce the pollution. These types of systems are using to reduce the pollution and reduce the gases in the atmosphere. So after the protocols of Paris COP, these type of technologies have been grown and has to be improved and approved for countries, developing countries also. UPSC likes technologies that help solve environmental challenges. So that is why you have to focus on these concepts: carbon filtration, carbon sequestration, desalination, pollution control. etc. That is number. Moving to family number 6, that is defense and strategic technologies. What are the defense and strategic technologies? These are includes drone technology, hypersonic platforms, advanced aircraft systems. These are using for modern warfare, and these are using for agriculture, and these are using for warfare technology, etc. So these questions test technological capability, not engineering details. So we are moving to final family, that is family number 7, advanced materials. What are the examples included in it? Lithium, cobalt, rare earth elements, and advanced alloys. These are these materials are using in the previous technological systems like space technology, EV, environmental technologies, transportation system, etc. etc. So that is why these are advanced materials are most important to running the different technological systems like environmental technology, space technology, and defense technology, etc. and so on. So these materials are critical for modern electronics, energy systems, and aerospace industries. Let me ask you a quick question. Think about the last few UPSC prelims papers. How many science and technology questions do you remember coming from biotechnology or electronic technology or energy technology? Pause for a moment and think about it. If you start analyzing the papers carefully, you will notice that many questions come from a few recurring technological ecosystems. That is exactly what we are trying to identify in this session. Those are the UPSC Science and Technology question pyramid. That is, what is the pyramid? Now let us understand how UPSC actually designs science and technology questions. Most questions combine three layers. First, that is scientific principle. What is the scientific principle? For example, how does Li-Fi communication work? This is the example, like scientific principle. Then moves to second one, that is application. Let's say example, where is near field communication used? This is called application system. Then third one, the policy or sector context. Why are EV batteries important for the energy transition? This is the policy context or sector context. UPSC usually combines two or sometimes all three of these layers in the same question itself. Those students who memorize only definitions usually struggle with such questions, these type of questions. But UPSC is asking again and again, like application, scientific principle, and policy context. Blend with three types of questions asking nowadays. So why students lost marks in science and technology? What is the confusion? The biggest reason aspirants lost marks in science and technology is not lack of knowledge. It is a misclassification of the question. UPSC usually confuses students using four common traps. That is terminology confusion, application confusion, system confusion, and policy context confusion. Let's we examine terminology confusion. For example, let's we take genome versus transcriptome terminology. They're focusing on terminology. They're traps using on terminology. Then we're moving to application confusion. For example, antibodies versus vaccines in application. System confusion, Navik versus Kagan. What is Navik and what is Kagan? What is using what type of uses, etc. As far as policy context confusion is concerned, hydrogen economy versus hydrogen production. Thus, that is policy context. So you have to understand the confusion, understand the trap. So you have to read the particular question with more cautious. Then only you can understand what they actually is asking. Then only you can eliminate other options and identify correct option. So that is why you have to understand these type of confusions like terminology, application system, policy context. So once students recognize these traps, many science and technology questions become much easier to solve. Another interesting development in recent UPSC papers is the increasing use of casual reasoning questions. Instead of asking simple factual questions, UPSC sometimes uses the statement 1 and statement 2 format questions. In this format, students are not only asked whether two statements are correct or not, they must also determine whether one statement explains the other. This requires a deeper level of understanding of the particular concept. For example, a question might connecting melting polar ice with changes in the Earth's rotational axis. Even if a student knows both facts individually, the question becomes difficult. Why? If the causal relationship is not clear between the both facts. So this shows that UPSC is testing scientific reasoning, in-depth reasoning, not just memorization. So there is one more pattern that becomes very clear when we analyze recent science and technology questions. The subject is no longer limited to pure science. It has become increasingly interdisciplinary in nature, In other words, modern science and technology questions often combine with science, economics, environment, and public policy. For example, let's take consider direct air capture technology. What is direct air capture technology? At first glance, it looks like a laboratory innovation. But in reality, it appears in discussion related to climate change mitigation, that is, carbon markets and the Paris Agreement. So, when UPSC asks about such technologies, the question is not only scientific, it is also about governance, policy implications also. That is why you have to combine questions with the disciplines, interdisciplinary in nature. This trend is exploding like anything in near future. Understanding the interdisciplinary nature is essential for solving modern science and technology questions. So, based on PYQ analysis, what is PYQ? Previous year questions analysis and current technological developments, several themes appear repeatedly. For Prelims 2026, aspirants should focus on the following technological ecosystems. Those are artificial intelligence and machine learning, semiconductor technology and chip manufacturing, electric vehicle battery systems. Before we move forward, let me highlight an important shift in the way UPSC asks science and technology questions. Earlier, UPSC questions operated at what we can call a macro level, broad spectrum. For example, if you knew about electrical vehicles, that was usually enough. When earlier times, but in recent years, the examination has started moving toward technical granularity. Technical granularity. In other words, UPSC is now looking inside the technology. This is micro level. For example, instead of asking about electric vehicles in general, question may focus on battery chemistry. So students may need to recognize the materials such as lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, etc. This means preparation should not stop at the technology name. Students must also understand the internal components of the technology. You have to dig it internally. That is one of the major shifts we observe in the recent UPSC papers. Then move to green hydrogen production, biotechnology applications, satellite navigation systems, drone technology, carbon capture technologies, and quantum communication. As far as advanced materials is concerned, such as rare earth elements and graphene, etc., these are using. Let we let me take into little deeper artificial intelligence and machine learning, because AI is rapidly transforming governance, industry, and digital systems. That is why UPSC is focusing on these sectors. About semiconductor technology, because chip manufacturing has become a strategic issue for global economics. Moving to electric vehicle and battery systems, because energy store is central to the clean energy transition. What is the green hydrogen production? It is emerging as an alternative clean fuel, clean energy, clean fuel. Biotechnology applications. This affects healthcare, agriculture, and pharmaceuticals. Satellite navigation systems. Space infra, Space infrastructure is becoming critical for national capability. Then we are moving to drone technology. UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, are now used in agriculture for spraying, surveillance, logistics, and defense, etc. Coming to carbon capture technologies, they are being discussed in climate change mitigation, quantum communication. These technologies are emerging as the next frontier in computing and communication. About advanced materials, such as rare earth elements and graphene, which are essential for modern electronics and energy systems. These are These areas are important because they influence policy, economy, and sustainability. That is why I repeated continuously three times. These are most important and probable themes for 2026. Around 70% of questions UPSC may ask for science and technology is concerned from these topics, direct or indirect, linking. So you have to focus and you have to keep an eye on these particular themes. So, what is the preparation strategy for students? How can they prepare for UPSC, CSC, Science and Technology? Students often make one mistake. They prepare science and technology as a list of inventions. Don't. You don't do that. That approach rarely works in UPSC. Instead of that, preparation should focus on three questions. Please focus on this. How does the technology work? And where is the technology used? Why does the technology matters for India? If you revise technologies using these three questions, the subject becomes much easier to manage. The subject becomes much easier to manage. Before we conclude this session, let me share a very practical framework that can help you solve many science and technology questions, even when you have never seen the topic before. I call this is the Metis Science and Technology mental model. Whenever you see a science and technology question in the UPSC Prelims paper, ask yourself three simple questions. That is rule number one. Identify the domain. What is the domain? Is the question about biotechnology, energy technology, digital systems, space systems, or advanced materials? So you have to identify the domain first. Then rule number two, identify the function. Then after the identify the domain, you can identify the function. You have to, what does the technology actually do? Does it store energy, transmit information, detect something, treat, treat disease? This is rule number two, that is identify the function. Rule number three, identify the context. Why is this context, means why is this technology important today? Is it connected to climate change? Is it connected to digital economy? Is it connected to national security? Is it connected to healthcare? Very often the correct answer emerges through logical elimination. So you have to use these three rules. Before we conclude, let me leave you with one deeper observation about UPSC examination. If you look carefully at the evolution of civil services examination, you will notice something very interesting. What is that? UPSC is gradually moving away from testing isolated information. Instead of this, it is increasingly testing whether a future civil servant can understand systems. Science and technology questions are very good example of this shift. The exam is not asking whether you can memorize inventions. It is asking whether you can understand how technology interacts with energy systems, public health, environmental sustainability, economic development, national security. In other words, UPSC moving from information testing to systems thinking. that is systems thinking. Before we close this session, let me leave you with one small exercise. After watching this video, go back and look at the science and technology questions asked in the last few UPSC papers. Try to identify which question family they belong to. Once you start recognizing these patterns, the subject will feel far less unpredictable. And that is exactly the goal of this session. If you found this analysis useful, do share it with fellow aspirants preparing for UPSC Prelims 2026. And let me know in the comments which subject you would like to see analyzed next. Remember, UPSC preparation becomes easier when you understand the pattern behind the paper. Thanks for watching.